It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio, flavored with a dash of humor. Welcome to intelligent, irreverent talk about plants and the planet they grow on. Your questions, comments, and participation are always welcome on Facebook and Instagram at The Mike Nowak Show and at Mike Now on Twitter.
Good planets are hard to find. Temperate zones and tropic climes. And true currents and thriving seas. Wind blowing through breathing trees. Strong ozone and safe sunshine. Well, good planets are hard to find. Good planets are in demand.
Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Jet streams, perfect air.
And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in demand, right?
And good morning.
Good morning.
And you're looking a little pasty there, Peggy.
I had to switch cameras. After rebooting the computer several times, I had to switch cameras because the camera on the Mac shut off. So
but so I'm wondering if
I'm sure I will be rebooting again.
At some point, probably during a commercial break or something like that. Or, if you need to do it in the middle of the show, please do.
I keep getting, for people wondering, I keep getting booted out of vMix this morning. So.
Right, and which is odd because our guests who are waiting in the wings seem to be having no problems with that. So I'm not sure what's going on, but we'll just charge ahead.
It's my turn today.
It's your turn to, yes, exactly. I was looking out the looking out my back door, and I saw the downy woodpecker at the suet feeder. And what's funny about that is, usually there's 10,000 sparrows, and I looked out front, in the front of the house at the feeder there, and that's where the 10,000 sparrows are, and the occasional red-tailed squirrel on the feeder. But what I've noticed about the downy is that the sparrows do not mess with the downy woodpecker. So when the downy woodpecker is there, the sparrows are just waiting for their turn. They're waiting until the he or she goes away, and I should be able to identify, and I haven't yet.
I've seen downies and hummingbirds going at it.
Not in January, right?
No, but some of the woodpeckers do hang out on the hummingbird feeder.
Well, at any rate, good morning, everybody. Thank you all, those of you who are watching for the first or the second time. I know a number of you have subscribed as I started this kind of campaign to raise some money for the legal fund to help save Bell Bowl Prairie. We are up to, we've gotten 162, I think, subscribers. We're at 800
subscribers.
New subscribe. Yeah, if you were a subscriber, I wish you could, but it didn't cost anybody to do this. All they had to do is click a button, and I was going to give $5 every time somebody knew there was a new subscription to Bell Bowl Prairie, and we are now over $800 that is going to the fund. And I hope to be able to take that up to $1,000. So if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to the program yet, go right over to YouTube. You can watch this on the live stream on YouTube every Sunday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. And sometimes a little more because Rick DiMaio, our meteorologist, can get a little long-winded. And there's a lot to discuss in climate and weather. Like nor'easters we'll be discussing today.
But it doesn't cost you anything. Go over to the YouTube channel, subscribe, hit that little notification bell so you know when we go live.
So,
and then while you're at it, go to your favorite podcast player and subscribe too.
That's right, because we're on a bunch of them. And you know what? I'd be interested in the opinion of our audience. I'm thinking of bailing on Spotify because it's for the same reasons that Neil Young and Joni Mitchell have bailed on Spotify, that there's too much misinformation going out through that platform. And I'm kind of curious what people would think. I'm assuming most of the people watching right now are not, well, they're not listening to us on Spotify because the podcast doesn't go out until a couple of days after the live show. But I'd be interested in what people think about that. Anyway, we got a great show today. We're going for a walk in the woods. Not literally, but figuratively. We're going to be talking about the great, and they are great, forest preserves of our area. One of the things that is so wonderful about Chicago is that, well, certainly in Cook County, people had the foresight 100 years ago to save that land that borders, that was forested and prairie land that was going to go away. Even then, folks could see the encroachment of the city, and so a lot of it got saved, and now there's 70,000 acres in the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. I found out, and I didn't realize this, there's 31,000 acres in the Lake County Forest Preserve District, and they are the second largest in the state, following only Cook County. So today we're going to feature both of those forest preserve districts. We'd love your questions. We'd love your comments on places that you go that you think are fabulous. When you take a walk out in the woods, when you go out to a forest preserve, what is it that you especially like? So we can pass that along to our two guests. We'll get to them in just a second. But then in the 10 o'clock, we need a name for this. And that's another place our listeners can help with, is what do we call the segment when Peggy and I discuss science and environmentalism and gardening, just articles that come, as I said, on the blog this week, I called it Over the Transom, or Through the Transom. But we need a segment for
my back door.
Exactly. When we talk about these various, because there's a bunch of articles, and I put the links up on my blog post. Go to MikeNowak.net, MikeNowak.net, and we're going to discuss some of those stories. Then, of course, as I mentioned, meteorologist Rick DiMaio will be here reporting on the nor'easter, the great nor'easter, and even the six or
that's wrong. You need that down east accent, talking about the wicked storm.
Arr. Oh, that's
pirate.
Yeah, it's pirate stuff. But yeah, the wicked nor'easter, and even the 6 or 7 inches that I got of snow here in Chicago. A lot of people in the area didn't. You got like 2.
Yeah,
it was amazing. There, it just kept snowing because it was lake effect coming in. So, all right. That said, let us get to our guests, and there they are in the lower right and lower left corners of your screen. If you're listening on the podcast, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But we have Nina Baki. Does that work for you, Nina?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
It sure does, yeah.
I found out that Nina, who I've known for a number of years, her real name is Janina. And I won't use it all the time, but I like that name. That's a great name, Nina. She's the community outreach coordinator for the Forest Preserves of Cook County, or the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. Okay, let's settle that right now. Sometimes folks call it the Forest Preserves of Cook County. Sometimes they call it the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. When you're inside, what do you guys call it?
The Forest Preserves. So talking to the public, I would call it the Forest Preserves of Cook County. However, if we were talking about legal documentation, it would be the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. So both are correct, and it's just a matter of which one you want to say and how it's used.
I want to make sure I'm
and it's FPDCC for your website too.
Exactly, yes. It is FPDCC. A little confusing, I see.
Well, yeah, and if you want to tweet out something and tag the Forest Preserve District, it's the FD, for FPDCC on Twitter.
And LCFPD for Lake County,
Yeah. And
Good luck.
speaking of Lake County, we have Rebekah Snyder on the right side there, the Director of Community Engagement and Partnerships for the Lake County Forest Preserve District. And welcome to both of you. Thank you for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here again.
Oh, well, it's great to have you. Yeah, you were with us, I want to say like 3 years.
2019,
Was it? All right, so going on 3 years.
when
It's
we were out at the meadery.
That's right.
Yeah.
We were on the south side at the meadery, uh, Wild Blossom Meadery. Thanks to Audrey Fisher and Greg Fisher, who run a wonderful, wonderful business there that is right next to Dan Ryan Woods. And they're getting their pollinator garden going there. And I mean, it's the only meadery in Chicago. I think it is still the only one. And if you haven't been down there, Peggy, we should track down that link and put that up because people need to go down there and see what they're up to. It's just a lovely, lovely business. And yeah, we were live there, and you were on the show, and I forget what we were talking about, but probably pollinators or something like that. And this is the first time I've had Rebekah Snyder on the show. And actually, Rebekah, I want to start with you because you said something the other day that surprised me just a little bit. And I think your mic went off. There we go. Now it's back on. Something that surprised me is we were chit-chatting and setting up the connection here, and you talked about how wonderful it was to work for, in your case, the local government. And I thought you were being sarcastic, and you were not being sarcastic. You were being very real about that. So now I'm intrigued, and maybe I've been in media way too long, and I look at government a little bit askance, and I think, okay, here's bureaucracy, and here's obfuscation and lack of transparency sometimes when you're dealing with these entities. So tell me why it's such a great job.
Well, starting off with a really personal question, but I'm fine with that because I could go on and on about the glories of local government. I was not being sarcastic at all. It's just a real privilege to work for the public, and I know I'm not the only one at the Lake County Forest Preserves who feels that way. And I'm sure Nina would say the same about working for Cook County, and previously I think you were with Will County. I know it's true at my agency, and I suspect at other local government agencies, you just really have a sense that you have a responsibility to the public. And at our agency, we have a lot of trust and pride in the forest preserves. The public consistently tells us that. So how could I not feel excited and passionate about that?
Well, I think it's a wonderful answer, and I apologize for sucker punching you at the get-go, but I didn't think you would be embarrassed by it because you were so genuine about it. And like I said, maybe I'm a little jaded. I've been at this too long, and it's so nice to see somebody who likes their job. They work in government, they love their job. I suspect people in the White House actually love their job as hard as it is. And the idea of serving your country or serving your community is noble.
Yeah. How can you not be proud when you get to work on really big things? And I know Nina's going to talk about this. You asked us to talk about big developments in this hour we have together. And every time we do a big restoration or put in a new trail, and it's pride in the fact that the public trusts you to do that. It's that you can do really big things with public's dollars and with the public's trust, and that's really exciting to me.
Well,
and I think you're right.
That new preserve.
What's that, Peggy?
When the district acquires a new preserve and setting that up, that's got to be really exciting.
Okay, well then let me go to Nina and address the same question to you. I mean, what's it like working in Cook County? Obviously, larger entity. I mean, you have 70,000 acres in the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. What are your feelings about being a public servant?
I mean, I love it, first of all. I can ask for no better job that allows me to be in nature and connect people to nature. And I think there's a stigma when it comes to like wondering if you belong, right, somewhere like in nature. It's scary, right? There's these fears or hesitations out there. And it's really, really cool for me to work for an agency that has a great leadership that really promotes and wants all to feel welcomed here. And so I get to do that. And it's amazing. It really is a privilege to be in this position and just to chat with people all the time about the forest preserves. I can ask for no better role.
Okay, I got to ask a question of both of you. You know, you are in charge of various things in your forest preserve districts. Do you get out enough to the forest preserves, or do you regret not being able to do that as much as you'd like? Rebekah?
I absolutely do not get out enough. That's for sure. My personal passion since I was in college and what has always been around the environment, and my degrees are in environmental science. And I've always worked in conservation organizations, but not really on the ground. I think maybe Nina has a different role. I'm a little jealous of that. But you know, the important thing about a forest preserve district or any local government agency is even our accountants feel really connected to our mission, and they may never or not be in the forest preserves as much as they want, but it's important, the accounting role, to make a functioning professional organization, and that's what we are. So we work really hard to instill that value for the mission and the love of the work, and time for our employees to be out in nature. So I still don't get enough, though.
Well, yeah. And you know, and part of the reason is not only are you involved in communications and media, you oversee fundraising in the forest preserves through the charitable partner, the Preservation Foundation. So that does suck up a lot of time, doesn't it?
It does. But it's a different angle. Nina was talking about her ability to connect to the public and especially show that they have a place in nature. And I do that in a different way with a different constituency. People ask me all the time, how can you ask the public to give? Don't they already say, well, I give with my taxes? I think I can count on two hands in 10 years the number of times that's happened. And when they say that, I say, thank you very much. We appreciate that too, and we don't take our taxpayers for granted. But there are still plenty of other conversations to have with donors. So yeah, you'd be surprised.
And Nina, you do get out there a little more, apparently.
I do. I mean, there are days where I spend behind my computer, but yes, for sure. I try to get out once or twice a week to visit all the sites and my teams. And then also, personally, I have 3 children, 5 and under, so I want them to know nature. So they are also motivation for me to get out to the forest preserve. So we use them together as a family.
Well, when you talk about getting out to the forest preserves, I'm going to show you a photo that I took when this was on the 2nd of January of this year. And if you want a photo that will encourage people to go out in the winter, and you know what? After it snows is a really fabulous time, if you get the right boots and you got your mittens. This is at Harms Woods. And of course, this is a controversial place right now, not because of anything going on in the woods, but what might be going on nearby with the Carvana car tower that is being proposed for Skokie. In fact, it's going to be voted on a week from tomorrow by the Skokie Council. But what a lovely area. And when we went, my friend Mac, who is a master naturalist, was taking water samples to check for chloride in the water because it had just snowed. And guess what? People right away are putting down salt, and it's starting to flow into our rivers. This is the North Branch of the Chicago River. But as you can see, it just lifts your spirits. So I'm going to assume, let me show one more here, since I've got this up. And this was last week. Any guess where this might be? It could be a lot of places. I'm not going to put you on the spot. This is
No,
Dan Ryan
can't
Woods.
What was the guess?
I said Dan Ryan, but I know that is opposite of where you live, Mike.
Yeah, although I get down there, I'm going to show some photos later from when I was on the south side. But this is Skokie Lagoons. And another wonderful day. It was cold. It had snowed, but it was fabulous. And this is anybody who thinks they're not going to have a good time in the winter at a forest preserve is greatly mistaken. And you're nodding, Rebekah. So tell me how it is. What is it that you encourage people to do, and where to go in your district during the winter?
Well, the short answer is they can go everywhere they go in the height of summer, and people do. We have 64 different forest preserves in our county. As you said, 31,000 acres. And I just have to say that as impressive as Cook County's 70,000 acres is, and it very much is impressive, it's both of us, I think, have 11% of our land in the county, which makes us, at least in our case, the largest landowner. Anyway, there's a lot to explore, including 209 miles of trail. And people do all of the winter sports activities, excuse me, on those trails. Cross-country skiing and snowshoeing, and even in a couple of areas, some snowmobiling. We have a bit of that still going on. And of course, ice fish. Oh yes, here. This is exciting for us. We finally got a 2-track snow groomer. This was actually a grant from our donors, from our Preservation Foundation. But you can see it being deployed with our snowfall a couple of weeks ago. So that was its maiden voyage, and we're very proud of that.
Can you explain to what a snow groomer is? I have no idea.
For cross country.
Yeah, it's for cross-country skiing. And actually, maybe Nina knows a little bit more about how people cross-country ski versus snowshoe. I don't. But there's actually, you can see the little thin grooves there, and then on the other side, two or four larger grooves. And that's what they call the 2-track snow groomer. We only had a small 1-track snow groomer before, but when a fresh snow falls, our crews will get out there, not in every location, but in multiple locations, and people can find out on our website where cross-country skiing is. And then we ask thanks for asking the question, because the public doesn't always know that if they're not on skis, they should avoid this groomed area.
Oh, really? Okay. I'm glad you said that.
Don't go walking on the groomed trail.
Well,
exactly.
I would go, hey, this is an easier way to get down the path.
Yeah, then you got skiers yelling at you.
Yeah, a little bit. But that's part of the education process. It'll happen, but please don't ride your fat tire bikes out there, or at least on this part of it. That's why not all of our trails are groomed. But many of them are, as you can see in this picture. We're very proud of this.
Well, when you come to, we saw some fat tire bikes out at the Skokie Lagoons. Are there, what are they expected to ride on? Just to muscle their way through whatever's there?
Fat tire bikes in our system are allowed anywhere. We just ask that they be mindful of the groomed trails right after a snowfall and avoid those. But anywhere else, fat tire bikes are allowed.
Well, let me show one more photo here that you sent me, and again in the snow. And this is really cool. This is how people, because the forest preserves are open past dusk, because dusk comes at 4:30 in the middle of the winter, and people can still hike.
Exactly. We know winters are tough in the Midwest, and we have 2 solar lighted trails, or solar lit trails. It's kind of hard to take a good picture of the dark, but there you can see at Old School Forest Preserve, which is in Libertyville, and then Lakewood Forest Preserve, which is in Wakanda, 2 of our larger and most established preserves. People can walk on the trails every night until 9 o'clock. Because we know our preserves are normally open, or all of our system is open 6:30 a.m. to sunset every day of the year. But these 2 locations are open for those who don't get out of work until 6 o'clock, like some of us.
Yeah. And that looks like it would be a lot of fun as well. Now, I want to show something that I actually used for the blog post. Did I not put it here? Oh, come on, Michael. Seriously, Michael, you didn't put this in the? No, I didn't. Boy, I'm an idiot. Well, during the break, I'm gonna come up with the photo I wanted to show, because I wanted to talk with Nina about the Palos area, and no, actually, not the Palos area, but the where you have the Dark Skies initiative going on.
Right.
Oh, I did get it
Palos
right.
Preserves. Yeah,
okay.
The Palos Preserves, right? So yeah, in partnership with Adler Planetarium, we applied to become an urban night sky place, and we received that certification last year. so excited about it. It's one of like a handful of designations in the U.S. to be an urban night sky place in the Palos Preserves. And because of that, we offer evening programs throughout the year for folks to come out and experience those night skies. I'm jealous, Rebekah, of your solar lit walkways. That's awesome because we don't have any place, any trails for people to explore on their own, but we offer a wide variety of evening programs, not just in the Palos area, but throughout the county for people to experience the preserves at nighttime.
Well, and here are some of the photos that you sent me that are pretty wonderful. This is at Cranberry Slough. And it's interesting. I'm going to pop that up, and then I'm going to show a photo I did remember to take. Okay, look at that. That's Cranberry Slough. And I went out a couple of years ago, going on 3 years now, unfortunately. Wow. This is, okay, explain where Cranberry Slough is, Nina.
So Cranberry Slough is located in the Palos area, the Palos Preserves, and it's especially beautiful. It's beautiful all year round, but it's in the southwest part of the county, and this spring is the time to visit Cranberry Slough because of all the beautiful wildflowers that you'll see. It's a carpet of flowers on the forest floor. It's one of the big places we spent a lot of time restoring.
Well, and then if you go east, this is a photo I took, and it looks remarkably like the other photo. And this is also an area that's been restored. This is a Thornton Lansing Road Nature Preserve. And when I went down there, there was some work going on, and that's across from, and I'm blanking on it. Do you, what's the lake down there?
There's Wolf Lake. There's Wampum Lake.
Wampum Lake. This is like across the road from Wampum Lake. And it's just so, you can't believe how beautiful it is. And you're thinking, you know, you're still in Cook County, and there's ferns growing under these trees, and it's been cleared out. And it really makes a difference when you restore the lands, doesn't it?
It does. And the past two photos that you showed us are of open woodlands, which is one of the major ecosystems we have here in Northern Illinois. So those are both beautiful photos. I love the ferns. They like make the place full of magic, don't they, Mike?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You just can't.
Yeah, we've got a question while we're talking about the slough. Sandra is asking, what exactly is a slough?
Good question.
Oh, I love it. There's a lot of sloughs in Cook County. I don't know about Lake County, but we have a lot of them. And I would say my best definition of a slough is it looks really large on the surface like a lake, but it's not as deep as a lake. So they can be very shallow in a lot of places, full of mucky bottoms, right? So if you don't ever step in a slough because you're just going to sink in mud, probably up to your knees.
You canoe in a slough.
Yeah.
Right. You can canoe in a slough and kayak in a slough, yes. But
so don't capsize.
Not unless you want to be, you know, tangled in aquatic plants, which isn't always a bad thing. It could be fun and adventurous.
Oh yeah, we when Kathleen and I recently went to Bullfrog Lake. We went a couple of times because that is one of the areas, and I'm going to grab those photos while we're in the break so that you can see what it looks like. And there are several sloughs there along the paths, and we took and they're just beautiful, and they feature all kinds of different aquatic plants. And like you said, it's not something you want to walk into, but you can walk up to the edge and enjoy it or take a photo. We need to take, in fact, we need to take that break here. At some point, I mentioned to you guys earlier in preparation for this, I wanted you to tell me what is a jewel or two in your system that you think is underutilized, so that folks might have some place to head out to that not a lot of people find when they're looking for a place to hike in the forest preserves. And so I'll just remind people that we are talking to Nina Baki, Nina Baki, from the Forest Preserve District of Cook County, and Rebekah Snyder from Lake County Forest Preserves. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Let's take a short break, and but we can't take a break until I pop that up there. Okay, let's do that, and we'll be right back. From spring seed and soil treatments to summer foliar feeding to fall stubble digesters, Blazing Star provides microbial tools from Tineo Biologicals for natural and organic farmers. They have solutions for home gardeners too. And Blazing Star also offers agroecological education and consulting, especially for permaculture work in zones 4 and 5. Learn more about these great folks and great techniques at blazing-star.com.
I'm not sure when I will feel like myself again, and that's hard for me to admit. I got COVID. So many others died, and yet I'm lucky. I'm still here. But so are my long-haul symptoms, and even the best doctors and scientists don't know what to expect moving forward. But what they do know is that we now have a vaccine against this devastating virus. It is safe and effective. It can keep you from getting critically ill. I wish this vaccine had been around before so many of us had gotten sick. But it is here, now, for you. This shot means that you can be there again with family, friends, and neighbors. Be there. This is your shot.
Starting seeds with fluorescents? Let's talk. You've used fluorescent bulbs for as long as you can remember to start your seeds and they work. We get it. Or you look at alternative lights to start seeds and the fluorescents are noticeably less expensive. We get that too. But I'm here to tell you, you and your plants deserve better. It's time to take seed starting to another level. Here is why a good quality LED grow light does so much better than those fluorescent bulbs. Your seedlings will get a better start in life with stronger stems and no legginess. Not only will they have stronger stems, they will be stronger overall in order to fight off disease. You can get them in the ground faster because the cycle time for growth can be shortened. You will save money overall because you can grow better quality plants in a shorter amount of time with much less energy than you use with fluorescents.
And welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We're talking about forest preserves today, and it's harder than you think in 90 seconds to find the photos you're looking for and send them to yourself, but I've just done that. And so at some point, when they actually arrive in my Gmail account, oh, there they are. I will be able to pop them in, but let's get back to our conversation about forest preserves. I want to talk about, before we get to the secret ones, the ones that people should know about that they don't, let's talk about some of the events that you have coming up this winter and perhaps even in early spring. I will say one thing. If you go to the events page, and I have that linked for both of your forest preserve districts on my blog post, there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, it goes on forever. Nina, I don't even know how you keep track of all the things that you are doing in the Cook County Forest Preserve. But maybe you can highlight some of those. Rebekah, let's start with you and let folks know what they can expect to do over the winter, because you guys have a lot going on.
We do, and thanks for putting out the link to our online calendar. Everything you can find, everything we offer you can find on our online calendar. But I was trying to pull out some special ones for you, Mike and Peggy. Next weekend, actually about a week from today, is Profiles in Excellence. This is going to be the 39th year of Profiles in Excellence, which is a celebration of the history and contributions and successes of the African American community in Lake County. This, for the second year in a row, will be a virtual offering. Unfortunately, of course, we had all rather be together, and it has been held at our Greenbelt Forest Preserve for a number of years. Because of the pandemic, we're virtual, but actually it makes it really accessible to new audiences. So I really want to encourage people to join that event, which is online for an hour and a half. And this year's topic is the past, present, and future of the Black Church. So really encourage people to join that one. It used to compete with Super Bowl Sunday every year, and they moved the Super Bowl.
Oh boy.
Thank goodness.
Yeah,
No
really.
There's not even a playoff game. So, and then I guess I wanted to talk about a category of opportunities for people. Believe it or not, this time of year is extremely busy for restoration. You would think, how is that possible?
Yeah.
There's no plants on the ground. Actually, for both our staff and our volunteers, the winter is a very busy time for doing restoration. And we invite the public to our restoration work days. Again, those are all on our website. And there's no experience necessary. We just welcome you, wear really warm clothes, and we'll provide all your tools, and we'll provide training. And believe it or not, we have a work day pretty much every day of the week, all year round, and all over the forest preserves. So check those out for sure. Go ahead.
Rebekah, what's involved in a work day if somebody wanted to volunteer typically?
Well, typically they're in the mornings, so think, 9 to lunch, give or take. And this time of year, most often they're cutting invasive brush, so buckthorn and other invasive species, sometimes gathering brush that was previously cut and burning it in brush piles. Pretty simple. This time of year, that's mostly what you're going to be doing, holding those loppers and cutting down small stems, and then your restoration workday leader will be running chainsaws sometimes. So spring, summer, fall, obviously lots of different activities going on. But right now, don't discount being out in the forest preserves. Even on a cold day, you are going to work up a sweat and stay pretty warm.
I imagine. And here's something else that you've been running and is still going on through March 27th.
Yes. Thank you. I wanted to point out for those who prefer the warmth in the indoors, actually, I hate to be cold myself. So we have plenty to do inside too, as always year round at our Dunn Museum. So for those who don't know, the Dunn Museum is Lake County's collection of history, cultural and natural history. So the Forest Preserves owns and maintains the Dunn Museum, and it's right here in Libertyville, where I'm sitting now. And in addition to Lake County history, which is on display all year round, we always have temporary exhibitions, and the current one right now is Ansel Adams' early works. I am guessing that your audience knows Ansel Adams extremely well, but they may not know his early works. And this is a fascinating exhibition, and it educated me a lot about what made him such a special photographer. And I've always heard about his darkroom skill, his skill in the darkroom, But what I didn't understand is that he saw himself as, in a good way, a propagandist for nature. And so the exhibition will tell you more about that. It's really, really exciting, up through March 27th. And
when is that open during the day? Which days, and do you know the times?
The best thing to do is check our website, because we do tend to we aren't open 6 days a week as we were before COVID. And also because of Ansel Adams is such a popular exhibition, we do have controls on the size of our audience. So people should check before they plan to come. Our open hours on our website. Dunmuseum.org is fine, or through the district's webpage. And then we're open on school holidays, so it's a little hard to give you, a set schedule. So please just check before you go, but we're open at least 4 to 5 days a week.
Okay. All right. Now I want to get to something that I started to talk about in the other half hour, and I managed to drag up a couple. I can't believe I didn't load these last night. But look at this. This is in the Cook County Forest Preserve District. And that is at Maple Lake. Nina, why don't you just explain the concept of what you're doing there in the Palos area?
So the Palos area is one of our priority sites for restoration. It's our largest grouping of forest preserves, right? So there's thousands and thousands and thousands of acreage down here. And so we've been focused a lot on what Rebekah was talking about with restoration. Stewardship is just removing the brush and returning and just caring for the land to make it richer in diversity, right? So let's remove some of these invasive plants and then allow room for other plants to grow. And so because of the expanse of open space down here, we have a lot of dark skies compared to other parts of Chicagoland. And so, Mike, is this your picture, or did we
No,
sent you
this is
picture,
yours.
right?
This is yours.
from
I'll show
our
you mine in a
volunteer.
second.
Great. Okay. Yeah. So what you're seeing here is a beautiful example of the night skies in the Palos area that you probably won't be able to get a view like this in other parts. And this is what and why it's so important to have this certification from the International Dark Sky Association of being an urban night sky place. I mean, imagine camping out, and there's a campground pretty close to this where this image was taken, and then being able to walk out your tent or cabin and just look up at a stars like this 30 minutes away from downtown Chicago. It's impressive.
This is right, and actually just a couple of minutes away from I-55, and you wouldn't know it from being there. This is Maple Lake that we're looking at here, and a neighboring lake is Bullfrog Lake, and I've mentioned that on the show because Kathleen and I have gone there a couple of times. I took this photo at Bullfrog Lake as the moon was rising. And I mentioned this to you the other day, Nina. Kathleen and I were out there, and I was looking up at the sky, and of course, you've removed. There are not that you've removed them. You haven't allowed lights to intrude here, and I don't. It's one of the hardest things in the world is to explain to people how debilitating light pollution is to our species, to other species, animals and plants, to the world. They look at the globe, you see those pictures from space of all the places the planet is lit up, and they go, ooh, isn't that cool, sparkly lights. And I look at it, and it makes me depressed a little bit, because we've thrown all this light out there without regard to the consequences of the light. And so here you are, smack in the Chicago region. It takes us about an hour to get there. And you can go to a campground. That you have cabins at Bullfrog Lake, because we're not big campers. We'd rather have a cabin, and they're simple. They don't even, you have to, not even a bathroom. But there are bunks, and you then walk to a community bathroom just down the path a little bit. But this is what you see, and I was looking up at the sky when we were there, and I went, oh, look, that's Venus. I think that's Jupiter over there. And so I pulled out my sky app on my phone, and lo and behold, Saturn was between the two, and I had not noticed it. And so there we were, standing there looking at Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn all in one little section of sky. And the fact that we could see them at all is amazing, because I see almost nothing from my Logan Square home. I'm jealous of people who can just walk out and see something. There's a phenomenon or meteor shower or something, and that ain't going to happen here in the middle of the city. So kudos to the Cook County Forest Preserve District for doing that, and I encourage people to go there. It's really fun. It's pretty reasonably priced. And it's so close to the city. It's just a great getaway.
Mike, and I just wanted to bring up, because you touched on, understanding how the light pollution affects, right, the Earth. And so we actually have, as part of our sustainability series, we have Lunch and Learns. And coming up February 17th, we have a Lunch and Learn on dark nights for humans and wildlife. So that is a great opportunity to discuss and be part of a conversation to learn about the impacts of light pollution.
And I think I actually did add that to the list of the activities that are there. Yeah, there it is. It's the very,
Awesome.
If you go to the blog post, it's the very last one under Cook County activities, Lunch and Learn, Embracing Dark Nights for Humans and Wildlife. You don't even have to show up. It's a Zoom presentation, but I'm trying to figure out how to explain this to my neighbors who are just shooting light all over the place, and they're all they're thinking is it's going to deter crime, and studies show that it doesn't really. And, you know, you want even light, and you want people to be able to adjust to light. You want their eyes to be able to adjust. So if you have these really bright spots and then you have the really dark spots, that's a problem. It's a problem for cyclists who go in and out of brightly lit areas. It's a problem for pedestrians, and on and on and on. One other issue that both of you have alluded to, and I'm going to pop up a photo about that. This was taken, I believe, in Sweetwoods on the southeast side. And if you look at that, you go, wow, it's a lovely spring day, and look at that wonderful carpeting. Do you know what that is, Nina?
I don't know.
It's
Something
kind of
that
hard.
likes moisture.
It's hard to tell. It's lesser celandine.
Ah.
Okay, and folks who don't know this, David Zaber was the guy who took me there, a naturalist himself, and lives down there and really knows the preserves well. It's an invasive species. This has taken over a lot of the areas. So when you have something like this, that has been removed. Now, you can't tell the difference in this photo, but those are ferns. This is a mat of this invasive species that's really difficult to eradicate. But this calls attention to the work that both of you are doing. Nina, why don't you talk about that a little bit, and then Rebekah, I'll let you jump in.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like Lake County, it sounds like, you know, they have such a full calendar of restoration work similar to what the Forest Preserve does. So, you know, you mentioned that lesser celandine is a thick mat, right?
Yeah.
That's hard to eradicate, but it's also hard for different plants to grow in it, right?
Right.
So it outcompetes all the other plants that may be waiting to sprout in that soil bank, which is the problem with invasive plants. And so, you know, being a conservation organization, restoration is a large part in what we do to help make these preserves healthy communities for not just for us, but for the plants and animals that live there. So we have lots of restoration work all year round. Right now is my favorite, as Rebekah said, because you get to use bow saws and loppers and cut things down and have fires, and that's really appealing to a lot of people, believe it or not. And
Well,
it's the skills of using tools, right?
yeah.
So you're picking up.
And
some skill
a
sets.
lot of plants that folks who are not familiar with these areas will look at something like Phragmites, which grows in the ditches, and they'll say, "Oh, that's a pretty grass. Oh, look, it's everywhere." Yeah, and if you keep looking, you realize
Yeah,
it's
it's everywhere.
everywhere, and it takes over large areas. And I imagine you deal with that in Lake County, Rebekah.
Oh my, we do. We do. I've actually heard more than one colleague of mine in the Natural Resources Division talk about invasive species as the single greatest threat to our Lake County forest preserves. And we take that threat very seriously, of course. You may not know, but Lake County Lake County actually has more biodiversity than any other county in the state of Illinois. So I would say, and I mean this in a positive way, but we have a restoration bias here at our agency. We spend a lot of time, a lot of public dollars, a lot of energy, a lot of grant dollars, a lot of donor dollars doing large scale restoration, landscape scale restoration. Because exactly what Nina said, a diversity of species increases the resilience of our forest preserves to future change, climate change. Through when you have a diverse landscape, you're increasing the resilience to changing weather conditions, to the next exotic pest that might come in, or the next wave of invasive species. And here, probably our biggest example here is buckthorn. Certainly, I know buckthorn is all over the region. But in Lake County, it is above 50% of our tree cover. And it only got worse over the past 10 years, which
Yikes.
we know, yes, kind of disheartening. And yet we're working on it every single day. Our volunteers work on it. Our staff works on it. It's what we're doing most of the time when we're applying for state or federal grants or asking for donors to invest in restoration. It's kind of a never-ending battle, but the goal is resilience.
And the part of the problem with buckthorn, and I had somebody recently talk to me about how they can't talk their neighbor into getting rid of the buckthorn because the neighbor looks at it and said, "You're not going to cut down my trees." Well, they're not native trees, and they are really they're pernicious.
Aggressive.
Yeah, they're aggressive, and they prevent, like the lesser celandine, other plants from growing. Like the Phragmites, they take over an entire area, and then you don't have diversity anymore. You have monocultures that spring up. So, all right, while we're here, Rebekah, I want to pop on some of the photos that you sent me, and you can comment on them. This
What
is
is
your this is your hidden gem.
Yeah, thank you for showing this picture. You asked us to pick our favorite child, which is really hard to do. But for the hidden gem, I am showing you a picture from Spring Bluff Forest Preserve. And if you can believe it, this picture, which I find extremely gorgeous, has our back to Lake Michigan. So it's something when you're not, you're standing on our wildlife observation platform there, which is a 2-story structure. We're on the top structure, and the Lake Michigan is right behind us. So that's the reason I pulled this up when you talk about a hidden gem. I don't know how hidden it is because it's right there next to, it's embedded in, at the north end of Illinois Beach State Park. But it's a really special location, and given that it's at the northeast corner of the county, not everybody wants to make the effort to go that far, but you should. It's a bird watcher's dream. It's a wildlife lover's dream. And this is, we don't do many structures in the forest preserves, but this is a 2-story observation structure so that people can appreciate the landscape there. And then, of course, you can see Lake Michigan. And we have more geography on Lake Michigan than any other county, so we have to celebrate that. I also want to mention that this is only about 285 acres, but it sits within a 4,000 acre globally important complex. So the Forest Preserves, for 10 or 15 years, has been working across the state boundary and with private and public landowners in this region of about 4,000 acres to protect this dune and swale habitat, which is globally rare. And in 2016, it was designated a Ramsar wetland of international importance. This is only the 3rd in Illinois, actually. So we're very proud of that. Lots of reasons to go visit Spring Bluff, which is right there at the north end of Illinois Beach State Park.
And of course, Peggy
That's
lives up to
Winthrop Harbor.
Yes, Winthrop Harbor, that's right.
Yeah, and Peggy, you know Lake County because you live there, so you know these areas better than I do.
I'm at the southern end of the county, but yeah, I've definitely been up there.
Here's another one you sent me, Ethel's Woods.
Yes, you asked us to think about, what's new and exciting these days. So I picked 2 preserves that people might not have visited. This is a brand new preserve, and this is a drone view because what's really special about it, one is that it only opened within the past couple of years. And what you're seeing there is the bed of a man-made lake that existed for about, 80 years. And when the Forest Preserves took it over, it was a dead lake. You couldn't fish on it. You couldn't swim in it. It was dead for wildlife and plant life. So over a number of years, we drained the lake and remeandered the stream. And now what you see is a healthy functioning watershed. And then you can see this is just part of our trail system there. This opened and became quickly one of our most visited preserves. So I really recommend people go check that out. It's in Antioch along Route 45.
All right.
Yeah. And speaking of that, the Millennium Trail underpass that just opened connecting.
Yes, I love that you know about that. Yes, our Millennium Trail is a planned 37-mile trail through the western and northern part of Lake County. A bunch of that's been done, including a segment right here. But that one still has a few more years where we'll get until we can get that completed. But right now, Ethel's Woods and Raven Glen, which is across the street, are now connected by an underpass. So you could just spend your whole day in this area.
In fact, Peggy, you sent me several things about Lake County, of course, that didn't make it to the blog. So if you want to bring up any of those before the end of this, I want to show, we have a really good question from Alexandra who says, how do you re-meander a stream? Which is kind of interesting. And while we're doing that, this is Buffalo Creek, wide shot of Buffalo Creek.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. How do you re-meander a stream? Well, the short answer is that it is a combination of art and science. And that's not my description, but that's my colleague who's since retired from the district but ran this program. It takes years to drain a lake. I think it took two years to drain the lake, so that you don't flood the downstream, landowners, which we certainly didn't want to do. And it involved a lot of earth moving. It involved a couple $1 million, thanks to the Illinois EPA, frankly, for some 319 money there. We got, I think, a $1 million grant plus some of our own money matching it. And a lot of manpower, those are a lot of wetland plugs going in there, trust me.
Yeah.
A lot of money, a lot of time.
All right. Now let's look at some of the photos that Nina, that you sent me, because there's some great areas here, like at Bussey Woods, which Bussey Woods is a pretty amazing place when you consider how close it is to O'Hare, and if you go there, there's a lot of acreage there and a lot of interesting stuff.
Absolutely. It's a huge network of trails and habitats, and it's one of the more popular sites for picnics and gatherings. And we certainly do programming at Bussey Woods. So I invite anyone out to come and participate in what we do.
Yeah. Just a quick comment. Dennis Dreyer, who watches the show a lot, says that Ethel's Woods is a great project. So congratulations to you guys. Here's another one in Cook County, Spring Creek. There's some just wonderful photos here that you've sent, Nina.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know much about Spring Creek. I sent you, I think, a dozen or so photos highlighting different forest preserves, but yeah, Spring Creek, I believe we have an amazing group of stewards out at Spring Creek making this place look as it is, beautiful, and it looks diverse and healthy.
Yeah. Here's Deer Grove East. And let's see, we've also got Des Plaines River Trail.
Yeah.
There's just some, you look at these scenes and you think, this is in Cook County? Are you kidding me?
Right. Yeah, and not just in Cook County. And go ahead, Peggy.
I was going to say, and Deer Grove being actually the first one in the county.
Right, that's right. It's our first designated forest preserve. And Deer Grove, Mike, you mentioned camping earlier. Deer Grove has Camp Reinberg right next door to it. So bring your bikes out when you go camping at Camp Reinberg and get on the trails that go through Deer Grove.
And we mentioned Wampin Lake earlier. Here's a ravine, open woodland ravine. And if that isn't lush and inviting, I really don't know what is. And speaking of that area, this is a photo. Peggy and Kathleen and Mac and I were out there. I think you were with us, Peggy, weren't? Yeah. And when we took this photo,
yes,
of the black crowned night heron, and this is at Flossmoor Road on the south side. So I do get there occasionally, thanks to Dennis Zaber.
David Zaber.
David Zaber, sorry. Thinking Dennis Dreyer, David Zaber. And one more here. This is Bobolink Meadow. And this is part of the Bartell grasslands on the south side. And this is an awesome area as well.
Yeah, we saw a lot of
out
hawks
there, and there's a lot of hawks and owls too. Have been known nesting like short-eared owls. So migrant species coming through and taking advantage of this open space that need a place for rest and food and recovery before they continue their journey.
Yeah, that's something we need to mention here, that whether it's Lake County, whether it's Cook County, whether it's Will County or DuPage or Indiana Lake County, this is a migratory route. And it's really important that we preserve these areas because the birds are taking advantage of them. And their routes are shaped by Lake Michigan and the shoreline. The fact that it's not part of the Forest Preserve District, but you can go to Montrose Beach and see as many different birds as show up there is just nothing short of remarkable. So
Yeah, Mike, could I mention too, like opposite of Montrose Beach, but still in Chicago, on the very south side is Beaubien Woods. And it's one of the, I think, gems that we have that doesn't get visited much, but we've been working hard at activating that site. And you can go there and look out at Flatfoot Lake and see bald eagles flying ahead or osprey flying ahead. And they're there because the resources are there for them to fish and the trees to roost in. So Beaubien Woods,
Well,
if I
I'm
can
gl-
encourage anyone to go, would be to go to Beaubien Woods.
and it's near Altgeld Gardens, and there's it's sort of a dichotomy of things there. We've got the and then across the Calumet River is a landfill, which has been
Right.
capped. And all these different aspects of our area come together in one little place. And I'm glad you mentioned that because as a final thing, you alerted me to this, Nina, that the New York Times came out with an article called 52 Places for a Changed World recently. And I've got a link to it on my blog post. And it highlights spots where travelers can be part of the solution. And it mentions the Little Calumet River and the African American Heritage Water Trail, which starts at Beaubien Woods. And you can follow this, and it's a project of Open Lands. And it's just the coolest thing. And if you go to the link, you can follow and see where the trail goes. You guys must be proud to be part of that.
We are certainly proud of it. I mean, yes, we want to preserve nature, but we also want to share the stories of Cook County people. And we bring a lot of cultural stories into what we do. And so this is just highlighting an amazing, resilient community down on the south side. And yeah, being part of the African American Heritage Water Trail and partnering with organizations like Open Lands. Down at Beaubien Woods nearby is the Tom Farm site, which is noted as being an underground railroad, a place for underground railroad for freedom seekers to come and take rest there. And so there's amazing stories, cultural stories that the Forest Preserves is supporting and wanting to share out. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Network to Freedom through the National Park Service. So that Tom Farm site is part of that Network to Freedom trail. So if you go on the National Park System's website and find the Underground Railroad Network, you'll see it listed down there. And so we are doing lots to activate the south side near Beaubien Woods and to get the community involved. And then also Beaubien is a great regional tourist location to go to. We have a community day scheduled next Saturday. If anyone wants to come out and be part of a community day with Field Museum and the Forest Preserves, we'll do restoration work and take people on hikes and showcase the fishing lake, the river access. It's going to be an amazing day. So encourage all of you to come up.
And Peggy just reminded me that one other thing we talked about, and I did pop this in the blog, and that was the coyote story. And I know there's a little bit of controversy going on right now in the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. And that's because you have a coyote, a 4-year-old coyote in captivity that was raised as a dog. And it bonded with humans. And so it can't be let out in the wild. But that has become controversial because some people say it should be moved to a larger area. Can you comment on that a little bit?
You know, you are right, Mike. This coyote is part of our animal ambassador program. So anyone that's been out to our nature centers has experienced our animal ambassadors, you know, from birds of prey to reptiles to fish. And at a couple locations, we have mammals. And for the most part, these animals like the birds and prey and mammals are not releasable to be back in the wild. There's some reason that they're here, whether it's an injury or in this case, the coyote is what we call imprinted on humans because he, with his siblings, was found before their eyes were even open, right? And so they were brought to an animal shelter and raised as dogs. Our staff is experienced and skilled at taking great care of our animal ambassadors. We go beyond the minimum requirements put out by the USDA and DNR. And so at this opportunity, like this point, we're using this as an opportunity to just get the full picture of our Animal Ambassador program. We're always interested in learning what's best for our animals, and we want to base what's best for the animals on the latest science, the best practices. And so we're taking this moment to just learn and make sure that we are doing what we're doing, and we're doing matches what is best. But our animals are always seen by vets. We have vets on call. We have wildlife biologist staff, and we take pride in the care that we give our animals.
And I will note that the FPDCC has released a statement on that. I've got a link to that. It's on Facebook, and it goes to an earlier statement. So you can go down and see everything has been said about this and weigh in if you need to. I just learned about this recently, so I don't know a lot about it. It'll be interesting to see what happens, because you guys probably still have some decisions to make about whether the coyote stays or the coyote goes to a wildlife sanctuary of some kind. So thank you for commenting on that, Nina, and thank you for being on the show. Rebekah Snyder, thank you so much for being on the show. Folks, get out. Get out. Go to your forest preserves. Enjoy nature. Get on a work crew in the winter so you can use your saw. I don't think they're going to hand you a chainsaw, so don't count on that. No, that's not going to happen.
Get out every day, no matter what the weather is, and the forest preserve is a perfect way to do that.
Even the days you don't feel like getting out, when you get out, you walk away thinking, oh boy, I'm sure glad I did that. I don't know about you, but that's the way it works for me, and I think it works that way for a lot of people. Thank you both. I hope we talk again very soon.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike and Peggy and Rebekah. It was nice having you in this conversation.
Thank you.
All right. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We're going through the transom when we come back.
Hi, I'm Megan Kosensky, and these are Dawn Redwoods. These are one of my favorite trees, and I've spent a lot of time with my family in Northern California looking at the coastal redwoods, which are a different species, but they bear a lot of similarities to the dawn redwoods that we have here on the East Coast. And because they're so similar, they act as a reminder of all my memories that I have with my family. The first time that I saw the coastal redwoods was when I visited my aunt and uncle in Northern California, and they asked what I wanted to do for my 20th birthday. I wanted to go and see the redwoods, and we spent a day touring through the forest, seeing these massive trees, and I think that was the first time that I was really starstruck by trees. And a couple years later, I became an arborist at Bartlett. So 20 years ago, my mom and her siblings planted a dawn redwood in memory of my Uncle Kevin. They planted it in his favorite place along the water in Laguna Beach, California. My aunt put a time capsule in the ground so that one day, in a couple hundred years, someone will find it and learn about him, and his memory will keep living on. There's so many memories within these trees for me, and I think for my entire family.
Welcome to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio with just a soupçon of humor. Or is that a dash? Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com. Here they are again, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
All I need is good food to eat and make me healthy, wealthy, wide awake. Lettuce, tomatoes, rutabaga. What about those sweet potatoes? All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good tools to make me music, porches, lawn serene. Give me all that I can take.
And welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. And here we are. You mentioned something while we're on the subject of Lake County. You sent me something the other day about old socks or torn jeans. There's a Lake County business that Lake County is expanding the program to keep them out of landfills, which is always near and dear to my heart. Apparently there's going to be a recycling program for clothing and textiles, such as blankets and quilts. That's the thing. If you got a blanket or a quilt, then it sounds like that's an easy thing. But if you got a little scrap of cloth of something, people find it harder to figure out what to do with that, or torn shorts or something like that. But there's apparently going to be.
We'll pull the article up here.
It's 61
This was in the
collection.
Daily Herald, actually.
Yeah.
Recycling program for clothing and textiles, 60 collection boxes, like you said. This is going through Solid Waste Agency of Lake County, who estimates nearly 500,000 pounds of these materials were dropped in bins last year.
Wow. That's good, though, because I can't tell you how many times I walk out to my alley and see a bin full of clothes that is just going to landfill.
Yeah, and we've had Merlan Rampel on the show before. She's quoted in here with Swalco saying, it's been a steady growth. It takes a few years for these programs to grow. The program was launched in 2014 at 6 sites, but there's now collection boxes at 46 locations throughout Lake County. Village halls, fire departments, park districts, schools, senior centers, and some such as Gurney and Grays Lake have 3 bins each and multiple collection boxes. You can go to swalco, swalco.org for some details. And Merlan says textiles are the fastest growing category in the U.S. waste stream. About 85% of discarded clothes and textiles end up in landfills.
Well, I was at a textile webinar not too long ago about recycling textiles, and it has become its own pandemic, really. It sort of has risen with the advent of shopping online, where folks
and fast fashion.
Right, fast fashion, and people wear stuff once and throw it away. I don't get that. I seriously do not understand that. And the other thing is, they'll order 5 of something and use one of them, and then the rest gets tossed. And even if you send it back, often it gets tossed. It
usually gets tossed.
Yeah.
And it's gotten so bad that I was reading recently that a lot of online retailers will just say, okay, here's your refund, don't send it back, because they're just going to toss it and they have no place to put it.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So Paul Thompson is asking, what do they do with the clothes and rags? According to this article, Paul, clothing and textiles are collected and sorted by a company called Rebekah Inc. 95% repurposed, reused, or recycled in a full circle program, says Merlan Rampel. Swalco collects a small per pound fee from Rebekah and shares it with participating communities.
Yeah, and I got sent an article by Andrew Fedorovsky, who watches us not too long ago, and of course it's on Bloomberg and so I can't get to it, so I can't even read the thing. It's about holiday package returns are choking retailers and landfills, and part of it is about how there's so many things are going to be returned. Wait, he did say, I know. He sent, I remember, he sent me a PDF. Thank you. You're the best.
And send it to me and I will help you with that. Let's put it that way.
Well, he's got it here. He says 1 in 4 Americans, and this was written a couple of weeks ago, obviously, just after the holiday season. 1 in 4 Americans expects to return at least one holiday gift by next weekend, according to a report by UPS. That's at least 60 million packages in a single return season for the world's largest package shipper alone. I didn't realize they were still number 1, UPS. A 10% increase over 2020 holiday returns. As the cost of shipping and handling these returns increases, retailers and consumers are facing an expensive and unsustainable shopping future. Bloomberg writes, for generations, savvy retailers adopted lenient return policies as a way to project reliability and to retain customers. Now it's biting them in the butt. They knew perfectly well that unscrupulous customers could exploit no questions asked or receipt optional refund policies, but the success of retailers like Nordstrom and Target, both of whom have famously permissive return policies and loyal customers, highlighted the countervailing benefits. In a recent survey of apparel companies, 86% of respondents agreed that returns are a necessary evil, but what it's doing, it's, as they say here, it's an expensive way to gain market share. In 2020, U.S. consumers returned around $428.6 billion in merchandise. That's almost $500 billion, or 10.6% of total retail sales. 10% is returned. Now online retailers, buffeted by picky COVID-era consumers, face return rates between 15 and 30%. This is insane. This is unsustainable. So,
Yeah.
our business the business models aren't working, at least not in this post-COVID world.
You can't even plan, not to even mention the stuff that's just wasted or not even returned and tossed.
Yeah.
Because people are ordering 2 sizes, 3 sizes, 4 sizes, whatever, or they're shipping it to somebody, or
All right.
I was going to say something we can look into on another show, but we've talked with Loop and TerraCycle. Loop's actually working with a handful of companies on a reusable shipping container. So if you order online, you get something that's reusable, that's postage paid, that you ship back to them to cut at landfill.
One more thing from this article, because and it's written by Adam Minter, who we've had on this show, and who is the creator of Shanghai Scrap, the blog post. In 2020, retail returns produced nearly 6 billion pounds of waste. Some of that is packaging, but much of it is returned product that can't be resold. In those cases, resellers and retailers faced with an unmanageable flood of returns are known to incinerate return inventory or dump it in landfills. Retailers who fail to address the problem not only bear responsibility for the waste, but risk alienating customers. You think? Although the customers, out of sight, out of mind, pop it back in. Hey, not my responsibility. And that is, whether it's the packaging or the product itself or what ultimately happens to it. So that's kind
Not
of
to mention everything that went into making it.
Yeah.
All the resources to produce it.
Yep. All right. Here's some good news. And this one, and I'm sorry, I'm going I'm all over the place here because I didn't even have that one in the blog.
No, I had to go find it quickly.
I know. It's like
I
forgot.
Windows I'm using right now.
Hey, listen, on a Saturday when I'm putting these together, and I've already got 10 stories I'm putting down there, and I realized, oh wait, there was this other one, and then I'm sending you. Well, here's one I sent you at the last second.
You and I get on the phone, and we're like, yeah, what about? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about 1,500 stories in the 25 minutes that we have. All right. Well, this is good news. Xerces reports, the Xerces Society, and I can hear myself coming back through your whatever. A surprising turn of events for the western monarch. 247,000 monarch butterflies observed across western overwintering sites, an over 100-fold increase from last year. Well, you got to remember that last year they basically weren't there. There was 2,000, and now it's up to 247,000. However, here's the flip side of that. The population remains more than 95% below its size in the 1980s when low millions were observed most years. The years total both, and this is Xerces Society writing, the years total both amazed us with the monarch's ability to bounce up from a record low and underscores the importance of ongoing conservation efforts to recover the western monarch butterfly population. So, and you texting me there, Peggy?
No.
Oh, okay. Somebody else did then. Okay, I thought maybe that was.
No, I'm putting up the link to the Xerces Society.
Oh, great. Okay, so that's good news. But if you look at the chart and the numbers from 1997, there were more than 1,200,000. So it's good to hear that.
It's going up and not further down.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll keep an eye on that because we still haven't had the numbers from Mexico, with the eastern population is coming back into the States.
That usually doesn't come out till about later February, I think.
Yeah. All right. You know what? I haven't checked this morning on this story that I sent you, and you hadn't heard this, and I was just kind of blown away by it, and it was going on in Texas. If here we go, Texas.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, the butterfly sanctuary down there.
I watched that video. Wow.
Which video did you watch? I'm sorry.
The YouTube videos that the article had of.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. And I see Rick has just sent us a morning update, so maybe I should just turn you loose while I download some stuff from Rick. No, okay, but yeah, I saw this.
It's kind of really tricky for me because I'm running the show in a private browser window. It's the only way I'm on the show, so I'm like flipping back and forth between.
We got to know what's going on over there. That sounds like an odd and interesting technical problem. The National Butterfly Center announced Friday that it would shutter until Sunday due to credible threats regarding activities planned during the 3-day We Stand America rally in the neighboring border town of McAllen. The closure comes 1 week after a right-wing congressional candidate from Virginia, of all places, accused the center staff of being okay with children being trafficked and mistreated. And it has to do with the fact that they're on the Rio Grande, and the nut jobs down there think that they're smuggling immigrants across the border and that the whole butterfly thing is a scam, except it's the most diverse butterfly conservation area in the entire country. Yeah. And so they just shut down. They said, no, we're not going to put our staff at risk. They were apparently a target. They were going to be a destination for some of these people.
Yeah. So it says the Daily Beast said on January 21st, Marianne Wright at the Butterfly Sanctuary was on a conference call, and two women were on the property demanding her son open a gate so they could go see, quote, illegals crossing on rafts. The women said they were a congressional candidate and a Secret Service agent. And this whole thing was captured on, of course, social media.
Yeah.
It was long shot congressional candidate Kimberly Lowe. And the National Butterfly Center closed.
Did you say, wait, long shot candidate? Yeah, it's always the fringe candidates that are.
That's what the Daily Beast calls her.
Yeah.
Long shot congressional candidate.
I love it. Oh boy! All right, here's a headline on a slightly, but not quite. I don't know if this is a slightly lighter note or not. This was in trees.com. Gen Z,
oh, yeah.
Generation Z, bought houseplants to improve mental health during pandemic. Stress and dead plants result instead. Okay. So it's basically just telling us that if you've never grown a plant before, there's a learning curve. Yeah, I think I knew that.
I like this stat in the story. 7 in 10 Gen Zers killed plants.
Yeah, but guess what? Boomers kill plants too. I've been
Yes,
known to,
yes,
you know, everybody kills
but
plants. Anybody who's owned plants has killed plants. And this is like all of my friends who have plants who are listening know this.
a learning curve.
Absolutely. And I know that Dan Costa is going to say that. Um, and you just got commented or complimented by Skeet on your computer skills.
Thank
Hey,
you.
hey, Skeet, I'm driving this ship, okay? I'm piloting the shuttlecraft here. I'm piloting SpaceX here, and you're giving Peggy the compliment. Thanks, dude.
Hey,
Oh, and Michael says,
yeah,
did you see Nova's program on butterflies? No, I did not.
send us the link.
Send the link. Yeah, pop the link up there if you can.
Yeah, I thought this whole article was kind of odd. It's like,
Well,
eh,
basically, the article was just about statistics. Okay, that's the deal. And Sandra is saying she has a peace lily that's struggling. Okay, reasons peace lilies struggle. They love water, so you got to keep them. You got to keep more water in a peace lily than in many plants. Okay, now Dan Costa says they buy plants and kill them. Then it's the oh, okay. They buy plants and kill them. Then it's the greenhouse fault, not them. Well, yeah, we
yep,
understand. I know you work
yeah.
there.
It says, plant owners in different age groups deal with sick and dying plants differently. Gen Z plant parents are twice as likely as those 25 and older to return unhealthy plants to the nursery, where they're purchased by a rate of 24% to 13%.
Uh,
However, both groups let sick plants die at a similar rate.
yeah.
So
Well, if a
everybody just let them die. Right.
well,
It's just it's an odd group of stats. I don't know what they were
yeah,
trying
it's
to
a bunch
prove.
of stats about plants, and basically they're pointing out that a lot of people decided to get through the pandemic by bringing in plants because it would relieve their stress, but instead they killed the plants and it increased their stress. Um, what can I tell you? But what about the plants that did survive? If you kept doesn't that plant make you happy? Doesn't that plant give you satisfaction? But let's get back to real quick. See if we can do a real quick analysis here. Sandra, you said your peace lily is struggling. I have a peace lily and I've talked about it on this show. I have it in a pot that does not have drainage holes, which is, folks, don't try this at home. I'm a professional. I can do it, but you can't. But the reason I did this is because I know peace lilies like moisture, and you can tell a peace lily starts to droop when it doesn't have enough moisture. Now, have you overwatered it? It's possible you could overwater it as well, and that's why you have to be real careful. If you did what I did, you should always have drainage holes in a pot. Okay, let me just say that, especially if you're a Gen Z and you've not grown stuff before. Always have a drainage hole in the pot. But I'm surprised because peace lilies generally you water them and turn them loose, and they don't even need a lot of light. So Sandra, send me more information. Oh, there we go. And how long have you had that?
A few years.
And the peace lily I got, this is a really great story. I got it from a friend of mine who was in Mila and was on my show back when I was at Gargantua Radio down the dial, the very first show after 9/11, when I came back on and was like really nervous. And he brought a peace lily to the program. And it was Ken, and I'm blanking on his last name. Boy. And I can't, it's just gone out of my head. But wonderful guy, and that peace lily, I still have that peace lily.
Listener Ken.
Listen, it was listener Ken. No, it wasn't listener Ken. It was Ken from Mila and Ken Benson. Thank you. I give myself okay. Who used to teach on the West Side. So yeah, Ken Benson, great guy, and I still have that peace lily. It's rocking. It's doing great. All right. Do we have 30 seconds or a minute for one more?
So Dan says, peace lily close to a bright window, keep soil moist. Do not fertilize if it's not healthy.
Yeah, that's a really good thing. Oh, I know.
I also
Yeah.
this plant goes in the shower every week. I just stick it
Really?
warm water bath in the shower. Totally let the water run through it, clean the dust off the leaves. It's a happy camper.
And I would tell Sandra, look to see if you've got do an inspection on the leaves and in the all over, front and back and underneath and upside, and see if you've got any insect or disease issues with it. Dan, I want to say to Dan Costa, I do have mine upstairs by a window, but it's in a dark room, and I've had it in dark places, and they tend to do okay. They're not real fussy about light, at least that's what I found. Yes.
Well, I had this in my office, it's a western exposure, but it wasn't catching a lot of light, and I moved it to an eastern exposure window, and it started doing a whole lot better.
Oh, I know what we need to say before we break here, because you're going to see it in this break, is that we're very pleased that the One Earth Film Festival is back this year, and a sponsor on the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. And you're going to get to see the first film trailer. Their festival is coming up. In fact, you can see their logo there in the lower right-hand corner as it pops up. And I want to make sure that, come on.
There it is.
Yeah. And I want to make sure I got the dates right. So I'm popping up the website real quick here because I didn't have this in front of me. And of course,
Sandra's giving us kudos for One Earth Film Festival, or giving One Earth Film Festival kudos, not us, but.
Yeah, of course. And boys, it's having a hard time loading here. This is not good. Great. That's not helping me. There we are.
Me right off.
Yeah, it is March 4th through the 13th. And also the Evanston Environmental Association is having their film festival, I believe, the weekend after the One Earth Film Festival, and we're probably going to be part of that as well. So you'll get to see the first trailer of the year, some great films coming up in the festival. We hope you enjoy it. Stick around. Meteorologist Rick DiMaio is next.
Tongass is so big it almost defies description. Thousands of miles of coastline, hundreds of islands, and trees. 11 million acres worth of Sitka spruce, western hemlock, and Alaska cedar. And the wildlife that lives there belongs to you and me.
This is a renewable resource that should be utilized and managed correctly. If I was doing it myself, I'd cut the old growth timber. It's dying anyway.
President Trump and Republican lawmakers want to tear down parts of what is known as America's Amazon.
The move would affect more than half of the world's largest intact temperate rainforest.
Ground truthing is this really incredible way to just understand a landscape by being in it. We are literally standing in one of the largest carbon reserves in the world. This forest is not a renewable resource.
It's depressing to see it still happening.
The reality is that it's industrial size, clear-cut logging. Those logs are also costing us money to come off of our public lands. We're actually paying to have this done.
We're always fighting to protect our ancestral land. And we shouldn't have to beg for clean water. We shouldn't have to beg for clean air. We shouldn't have to beg to let trees stand.
We continue to choose to cut down these trees largely because most Americans don't know that this place exists.
From spring seed and soil treatments to summer foliar feeding to fall stubble digesters, Blazing Star provides microbial tools from tiny biologicals for natural and organic farmers. They have solutions for home gardeners too. And Blazing Star offers agroecological education and consulting, especially for permaculture work in zones 4 and 5. Learn more about these great folks at blazing-star.com.
And welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Rick, I am furiously downloading the stuff you sent to me a few minutes ago, so we'll have that up in short order. But before we get to that, I want to show you something that you're going to find very cool. This is from 1958. I think, check it out.
Extremely dangerous questions, because with our present knowledge we have no idea what would happen. Even now, man may be unwittingly changing the world's climate through the waste products of his civilization. Due to our release through factories and automobiles every year of more than 6 billion tons of carbon dioxide, which helps air absorb heat from the sun, our atmosphere seems to be getting warmer.
This is bad?
Well, it's been calculated a few degrees rise in the Earth's temperature would melt the polar ice caps. And if this happens, an inland sea would fill a good portion of the Mississippi Valley. Tourists in glass-bottomed boats would be viewing the drowned towers of Miami through 150 feet of tropical water. For in weather, we're not only dealing with forces of a far greater variety than even the atomic physicist encounters, but with life itself.
There you go. Frank
I've
Capra.
seen that before.
You have?
Well, that's Frank Capra.
Oh,
Yeah, Frank Capra. Isn't that amazing? And the goddess thing, the Unchained Goddess is a thing about weather, and this is just the end of that whole thing.
Yeah.
But the idea that and somebody has done an edit on it to represent the whole climate change thing, which scientists knew that this was possible 60, 70 years ago.
Oh yeah, and that was actually part of that was featured on one of Al Gore's films a few years ago. But I think Svengoolie should just do that whole thing next Saturday, don't you think?
The what whole thing next Saturday? I'm sorry.
Svengoolie should just show that whole movie next Saturday.
Oh, okay. Why not? All right. Is Svengoolie still on?
Oh yeah.
I had no idea.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm sorry, I had no idea.
You just dissed
Okay, well, there's
Rich Cullen.
some rubber chickens at you, Mike. That's all. You know.
Oh gosh.
Right. I didn't get a chance to watch it yesterday. I was kind of busy, but last week was an attack of the killer tarantula. I mean, it was
really
fascinating.
Okay.
The kind of stuff that makes you go to bed that night as a kid, and you're always like pulling the covers over your head, thinking that spot that you tried to kill the day before is going to grow really big and kill you.
Mm-hmm.
The one that used to really creep me out as a little kid was Them, which is the one with the giant ants.
Yeah, and Peg, do you know who actually played the scientist in that movie? You know who that actor was? The same guy, Fred Gwynne, who played, I think it was Fred Gwynne, the same guy who played Santa Claus in Miracle on 34th Street. What's that?
Well, it wasn't. Okay, so the older Gwynne. Okay, senior, Fred Gwynne Senior.
Yeah, no, I made a mistake there, Fred Gwynne. But the guy who played Santa Claus in Miracle on 34th Street also played the scientist in the movie Them. And he was talking about how if man continues to play around with radioactive material, this is going to be, the end result, which is giant ants that have wings, because you have flying ants, and they go into the sewer system of Los Angeles and scare the bejesus out of us. So I believe it or not, I love all of those movies that people took science and just kind of twisted them a little bit and said, don't fool around with Mother Nature. And eventually we had a commercial about margarine around it as well, right? Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's not nice to fool with Mother Nature.
Yeah. And then what was the future of margarine after that?
You know, I don't know because I haven't used it in years. So
I don't even think it exists.
Oh, I think it
does. But by
does.
the way, before we go any further, I was just checking temperatures in Florida where my parents are.
Yeah.
This is pretty serious stuff. It was 25 degrees this morning. 25. And not only was it 25, it was like literally 28 degrees for almost 6 hours. You got a hard freeze going. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that they had, you know, back in the late 70s when everybody pulled up their orange crops and said, you know what, we're done. So the fact that you're able to get, you know, that cold of a temperature for that long, that's pretty serious stuff. So I'm looking at it right now, 27 degrees from 8:00.
The graphic I got, this is what you sent me last night. So this is what they were forecasting, right?
This is more so for southern Florida, but I'm looking at central Florida. And there were areas that made it to 28 degrees at about 3 a.m. and stayed that way until 8 a.m. You're talking about 5 hours of readings below 28 degrees. And all you really need is 4 hours, and you have yourself not only in a hard freeze, but a killing freeze. So anything that was left outside, any flowers, any bushes, those things are all toast. And I know that they don't grow as many oranges in that area as they used to. They've moved a lot of them to California and the parts of, I believe, Arizona. I'm not too exactly sure where those orange groves have now gone. But the place where my parents live in the villages, that was once all orange groves. And after 2 successive years of freezes, the basically the farmers left and the land was just sitting there to be purchased. And it eventually was, and has now become the largest retirement community in the United States. So climate back then, which was a little bit more variable from a standpoint of cold, allowed us to figure out what to do with that land other than to put oranges on it. But this was without a doubt one of the coldest air masses to move into Florida in about 15 years. Pretty amazing stuff.
I don't know if you saw this this video from the Everglades this morning. It's just something else. It's just crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. The Everglades on LSD, right?
Yeah, I guess. Okay. Anyway.
By the way, real quickly, I did about a 10 or 15 minute interview with 2 students from the Northwestern Medill School of Journalism on the formation of pancake ice. I could not believe how much. Yeah, I could not believe how many questions they were asking me about pancake ice and the structure of ice, and you know, do we see more of it? Do we see less of it? How does that affect shipping? How does that affect the shoreline? And what was so funny about it is they had gone down to Oak Street Beach like the day before the interview to film it. And they go, wow, it's all gone. What happened to it? I'm like, well, the southwest wind blew it out into the lake. But I think it's going to come back tomorrow. And then we're going to have some really good lake effect snow. And it's going to be here for a couple of days on Saturday and Sunday. But you better get your B-roll before it gets windy and warm again on Monday and Tuesday. And then the response from the student was, wow, weather was really unpredictable around here. I'm like, I just gave you a detailed 5-day forecast. I don't think it's unpredictable at all, just, you know, really where the details are. But this was a student from Virginia who had never been in Chicago for a winter. And boy, did Northwestern get walloped with that lake effect snow on Friday. Wasn't that something?
Oh, my goodness. We were at Ground Zero as well here in Logan Square. I want to find that graphic that you sent me. This is pretty interesting. Here we go. And
yeah, and this was just posted by the Weather Service yesterday afternoon, and there's actually a more detailed one that shows exactly where that band is. So basically, Mike, you were probably on the southwest part of Ground Zero. I was in Ground Zero. So where I am, we had about 8 inches of snow, but this is amazing. I drove yesterday out to Glenview. I had to do a talk, an FAA talk. When I got up to about Central, you can see there was 2 more inches of snow. When I got a little bit further west, you can see there was like 2 more inches of snow. It literally was like by neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood. And then I got out to about western side of Glenview. There was maybe 6 inches of snow. And then I was out at the Allstate Arena last night, and there was maybe 3 inches of snow, which is obviously right near O'Hare. So I literally went like around the northern edge. And I know, Peg, up where you were, you got about 4 or 5 inches. Am I right about that?
No, I got about 2, barely.
Okay, 2, because I know Highland Park got 5. So you must have been
so
just
probably
north.
The south end must have gotten it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm further north. So to the Botanic
Yeah, a
Gardens
little bit
probably got
further north.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think right around the Botanic Gardens got more. But what was really amazing was, when I talked to the Weather Service, Friday morning, I got up at about 5, went out, took a snow report. It was about 3 inches. I called that in, and they said, this helps because the band started to set up south, and then it moved north. And then when I'm leaving at about 7:30, it started snowing like crazy. We already had another 2 inches, and easily we were on track for at least 6 to 8 inches. And when I called in again in the afternoon, because I gave him reports like every 3 hours, you can hear the guy was like excited that they got the snow, but upset that the band moved, 20 or 30 miles further to the west. I go, but this was based on your prediction the day before. Mesoscale snow events are always going to be kind of hard, so don't beat yourself over the head. This was actually a good forecast that they put out, 24 hours out. People knew what was going to happen. I don't think you heard anybody really crying and screaming. And it's also the kind of snow that doesn't impact such a wide area, so it's fairly easy to clean. And when I got downtown that morning, there was not more than 1 inch on the ground on the corner of Belmont and Lakeshore Drive. Literally, we were in between the bands. And by the time I got down to Columbia College, it was about 4. So lake effect snow is always going to be like that. But what's most amazing about this, Mike and Peg, is we got 10 inches of snow out of literally 0.04 inches of water. This was like a 45-to-1 ratio event. There's like no liquid in this stuff.
Yeah,
fluff. And if you think about it, before we talked last Sunday, the ground was green. We had no snow on the ground. We got that 4 inches on Sunday. We got 2 on Monday. And then we finished up with 3 to 10, if you want to think about that, on Friday. So in a matter of 7 days, this area of Cook County, literally the northeastern part of literally from Highland Park southward, some areas got almost 16 to 18 inches of snow, which is remarkable. But if you went to areas, maybe far north or south, you got like maybe half, if not a quarter of that. So it was a lot of snow in a short amount of time, but it shows you just how quickly sometimes winter can kind of do a little bit of a pivot.
Well, and it shows you how specific winter can be, because that narrow band, and if we're out in DuPage or Kane County,
yeah, very little.
You didn't see much at all, and there
Yeah.
we were, and I went out and of course I didn't even have to shovel my steps. It was just a broom. It just exactly. That's pretty much what it was. Yeah. And I go out there and
then it evaporated.
It was coming down, and
really, it was pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very fluffy, and I went out and I saw it end, and I went out and started sweeping, and of course another band came in and it started falling very rapidly. I said, okay, I'm just going to wait until I see sun for a while, and then I know that the plume has left our area and moved south to Lake County, Indiana.
A good way to compare that snow with the snow that just occurred on the East Coast, there were many locations from Boston south to about Cape May down to the Delmarva Peninsula that got about 2 inches of liquid water. And further north, you were easily getting, it is New York City, further north you were easily getting snow falling in air temperatures of like 20 degrees. Further to the south, especially over the Cape Cod, that is, air temperatures were about 30 to 31, 32 degrees. So if you would have taken our 40-to-1 ratio and put it into the amount of liquid that Boston got, you would have had 80 inches of snow.
Yikes.
But still, Boston ended up, Logan Airport had 23.8 inches of snow. This is going down, I think, in one of their top 5 snows of all time. But in addition to that, incredible amount of wind, like literally all the way from Maine down to about almost the eastern North Carolina coast. You literally had snowfall of over 15 to 20 inches, an incredibly high amount of wind. So this again is one of those events that shows you just how narrow, some of these heavy snow bands could be. So this is obviously New York City, like right there, East 83rd Street. I think that's Fifth Avenue.
$99 drone is now available in the.
Whoops. Okay, went into a commercial. Let's get the commercial. I don't know what happened there. I picked that up from, I forget. Oh, that was AccuWeather. That was the video from AccuWeather.
I'm not sure what that drone was doing.
Oh no, that I know it's a drone from outer space. Yikes! It's like one of Svengoolie's movies.
It was the drone that killed the tarantula. Yeah, it was the drone that killed the tarantula in the Svengoolie movie. Right?
Yeah. So Peggy sent this. And you saw it too. I thought this was a pretty interesting graphic, and it was and basically it is on the dangers of trying to predict weather too far out. That's what they're talking about here.
This was posted by National Weather Service.
Yeah, and this was this from the Chicago office, Peg? I haven't seen this yet on their site.
The Chicago office had it on its Twitter feed yesterday.
And I think it was on their Twitter feed because I didn't see this on their website. But to be honest with you, I think you got to be really careful about putting stuff like this out because I understand that now there's so much easy access to long-range forecasts that if you're the person who is in charge of giving the official forecast, the last thing you want is someone doing it before you. I mean, I get that. I get that. So what the Weather Service doesn't want is people building a narrative that then they have to agree with. So what ends up happening is you end up not forecasting the science, but you forecasting what the public is expecting you to forecast. And that's like hearing all the chatter outside the West Wing, and eventually you agree with the chatter, even though that's not what your policy is. So while the Weather Service, I think, is right in doing something like this, don't make it public. Because now what happens is if we do end up getting a storm system that's going to produce, 12 to 18 inches of snow, now you have to kind of backtrack. Because what this is saying here is that we don't yet agree with that based on the fact that it's still something that's really, too far out in advance, which I totally get. And I think everybody understands that. But if you come out and say that, it makes you look like you don't think it's going to happen because there's not enough data. But I think everybody in the Weather Service knows that still could happen, but you still got to be like, you don't show your cards, so to say, is what's going on there.
Well, but
as of this morning, they're still saying as of this morning right now, 2-punch winter weather Tuesday through Thursday, but they're saying we're looking at a threat, northern scenario, southern scenario, and they're still totally hedging their bets. You really can't.
Yeah, and I think, I could definitely see what you're saying there, and they're right because so far the GFS is always a little bit further north, the European is always a little bit further south, and oftentimes you meet somewhere in the middle. I actually sent you guys some stuff as well that shows that it's going to be more of a southern track. But you know what? I have seen times before where all of a sudden the last 6 hours of that wave that moves through gets a little bit of an energy, kink to the north, and you'll end up getting, a 4 to 6 inch snowfall. And this is not going to be just a 1-2 punch. I think it's going to be a 1-2-3 punch because you're going to have a large area of overrunning precip. This is Tuesday's map. So Tuesday we're fine. Tuesday it's just basically warm, moist air moving over to snow cover. And the Wednesday map shows that, quote, baroclinic zone where the front is from, say, Arkansas through southern Illinois. That's really far south. So the snow, as you can see, is basically going to be like a St. Louis to maybe South Bend type of scenario. So you're going to get the overrunning on Wednesday. The wave over Texas does promote another band of heavier snow south of us Wednesday night into Thursday. But then there's going to be lake effect. Yeah, that's the thing that's going to be Wednesday night into Thursday. Then there's going to be lake effect or lake enhancement Thursday night into Friday. So we can conceivably get snow Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, even if you don't get 10 to 12 or 14 inches, but you just get 3 days of snow and 6 to 8 inches of snow.
Yeah.
And you got snow on the ground already. It's miserable. So you almost have to play the perspective that if people hear that there's going to be a lot of snow on top of snow, play it up. But then kind of hedge your bets where it's like there's two possibilities, one to the north and one to the south, and we're looking at both. But when you come right out and say, this is why we don't do things 5 days in advance, you sound like a party pooper at that point. I think that's when you kind of hold back a little bit. You really do. And I totally get where they're coming from. I really do. But and I worked with meteorologists who were cheerleaders about snow. And they were like, let's see what the models are saying now. And others like, I hate snow. I don't want to forecast. So what begins to happen is your emotions begin to take over and you become less of a scientist and more of like someone who's just saying, yeah, but it's not going to happen because this, blah, blah, blah. And it has nothing to do with science. It's just they don't want the snow. So it's the tricky thing about meteorologists.
I was going to say the WGN meteorologists, so far the WGN meteorologists have not been calling it either. They're just like, something's going to happen, but we don't know what.
Right. And what's interesting is Skilling has been off this week. And if he was on, he would probably be saying, by the way, there's something in the computer models that looks really interesting. And he knows how to tease it, and then he pulls it back in. So he teases it and he pulls it back in.
But I will say two things. Peggy, first, send me what you just sent me on the text. Send it in an email so that I can post it here.
Okay.
And the other is, I kind of agree with what the National Weather Service is doing. What they're trying to say, Rick, is something that you've said before to me and to our audience, which is when you start forecasting 5 to 7 days out, you're playing God a little bit, and you're often going to be wrong because things can change.
I just sent it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you read through their post, I think Peg had said in there, "What's all the fuss about?" So when I saw that, I was like, "Oh." Right? They say that, right? What's all the fuss about?
Yeah, that's this morning. This is what's all the fuss about next week. Let's break it down.
It's not this one, Peg. Is it this one, Peggy?
No, it's the one I just sent you.
Oh, okay. Let me pop that up. All right. I'll find it.
So
we're looking at
hear that
weather. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you hear someone say, "What's all the fuss about?" you're basically coming at it from an angle of, why are you getting so not upset about this or concerned about this? There's lots of things that can still not happen. I don't know. Put it this way, if this would be the week before Christmas, don't you think the headline would be, "Hey, look, everybody, we're monitoring what could be the possibilities for a white Christmas," right?
Yeah.
They would be approaching it from that. But when you approach it from what's all the fuss about, it's like, I don't know. I think sometimes, and it's so hard in this business to remain objective, but as soon as you begin to slide one way or the other, you almost have to bring yourself back and pivot. And they've done studies where if they have like 4 or 5 shifts, like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then they have to forecast an event on a Friday, you can see that trends and perception of what could or could not happen becomes part of the forecast. And then if you bring someone in on a Thursday, forecasted for a Friday, and they're looking at everything for the first time, they're going to be much more objective because they're just looking at the data and not going, now I have to go with what the guy on Channel 5 posted tonight because, and it's true, I think
now Channel 5 graphics. My graphics got to get redone.
Right, someone from Channel 5, I think, actually posted something. This could be a big storm, and I've seen it. I saw this even last week on Twitter, where someone said, "I know I shouldn't be doing this, but the long-range models are showing a potential blizzard on the East Coast." And the models went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and eventually they pulled it just close enough where it was a blizzard. But you can see the person when they did it, they're like, I want to be first, but I don't want to be wrong. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of tough from that side. But you know what? This is the fun part of being in the weather business this time of the year, especially when you haven't had a lot of snow and all of a sudden you're getting it. You kind of want to be the first, but again, you also want to be right.
And
it's Groundhog Day, so there you go.
Oh, that's right. We've got Groundhog Day coming up this week.
But it's snowstorms. Groundhog Day snowstorms.
Yeah, I'm still trying to.
Yeah, we've got a few of those, haven't we?
Yeah, the graphic just refuses to come into my Gmail. It's shown up on my other. Its Gmail is slow. I don't know why. It just takes minutes and minutes and minutes for something to show up in the Gmail. So if it gets here, I'll pop that graphic on. But we're almost out of time anyway. So what do you think is going to happen this week, Rick? You think it's going to go south of us?
I think we're going to have 3 days of snow, depending on whether you're north or south. I think further north, you'll probably get 1 to 2, and if you're close to the lake, you'll probably get 2 to 3. So there'll be a discussion next Saturday on how little bits of snow over the course of 3 days added up to a lot of snow, particularly near the lake, because the lake right now is wide open. Even though the Great Lakes, last I checked, were about 24% covered with ice, which is about normal for this time of the year. Lake Michigan is largely uncovered. Most of that ice coverage is in eastern Lake Superior, eastern Lake Huron, and much of Lake Erie. But Lake Michigan is always one of the last lakes to get covered with ice because we have so much. We're so far south. We always have to worry about the southwest winds, takes the ice, blows it in the lake, pushes it back, all that stuff. So the fact that the lake is open allows you to have lake effect snow. And that was a perfect setup the other day. Cold enough air, light northeast winds. This event coming through, the intake is going to be part of that lake effect event. And then depending on how that second wave comes out of the Rocky Mountains will really depend on whether or not we get on the northern edge of that snow. But if you notice the two of the graphics that I sent you, when you get to them, one is basically the forecast for snow over the next 5 days. And then I went overboard and I said, look, remember me talking about this last week in my report? I said that we're heading into a situation or a pattern adjustment where the clippers that were coming through took the main trough and kind of shifted it just far enough west, where now we're in this literally a zone, like a highway of these waves coming through, waves coming through, waves coming through. And literally between now and the next probably 15 to 20 days, you're looking at easily 2 or 3 snows a week. That could easily bring us probably 30 inches of snow in some parts of the Midwest over the next 2 weeks. We are in a bit of a drought right now, and the areas to the south of us, southern and central Illinois and western Indiana, have had literally 1 inch of snow this entire winter. So the fact that they're going to get the snow, which is good, they need it. But I think we're going to be at least see a fair amount of warming here. Today, tomorrow, probably low to mid 30s. Tuesday, probably low to mid 40s. But with that also a lot of clouds, a lot of fog, a lot of drizzle. Just about everything we have out there is probably going to turn to slush. Because as Peg pointed out, it's a very, very dry snow. So when I'm done with you guys, I'm walking a block and I'm going to go ice skating. I have my hockey stick and my puck. I'm going to play a little ice hockey. And then hopefully if I can get some cross-country skiing in tomorrow, I'm going to do that because I didn't get a chance to do it yesterday. And most of this stuff is going to turn to either mush on Tuesday or rain and then freezing conditions, which will be ice on Wednesday and Thursday. If you recall last year we got the snow early, the snow was terrible. And then we got all that, mush on top of it. The cross-country skiing last season was like about maybe 2 weeks. And it's one of my favorite things to do.
Went away.
Yeah. By the time we got to, I think, the end of February, it was all gone. It was the quickest evaporation and melting of 20 inches of snow I've ever seen in my life. So Hey, a month from now, it's the end of February and almost March, right? How quickly things go.
And the sunset is after 5 o'clock already. So woohoo!
Okay, well,
Yeah.
get out to.
That was Thursday, right? Was that Thursday, Peg?
Thursday or Friday, yeah.
Yeah, Thursday or Friday. Yeah. So everything is looking up at this point.
All right, get out to a forest preserve. We were talking earlier to folks from Cook County and Lake County forest preserves. That'll be a great place to do some. They were talking about skiing out at the Lake County forest preserves. They've got, what's that new vehicle called, Peggy, that allows them to?
It's a groomer, but it's a two-trail groomer.
Yeah, so they
a two-track groomer up there.
They've been using them up there.
Well,
so
I'm teaching on campus at Oakton Community College tomorrow for the first time in 2 years. I'll be on campus.
Wow.
And I'm bringing my skis. So when I'm done with my 2 classes, I put on my skis. I literally walk from my car to the trail, which is right there, and I'll be doing skiing because there's great trails in that particular area. The hard thing is on your skis walking across Gulf Road and hoping people stop.
Right. Otherwise,
I had to do that once. I'm like, can you guys slow down?
Somebody will go, is that, wait, is that a deer? No, it's Rick DiMaio. All right. So
then they'll gun it at that point.
Exactly. He got that forecast wrong. Get him. All right. Thanks, Rick. Have enjoy your skiing, and we'll talk to you next week.
Take care, guys.
All right. Bye-bye. Oh, okay. Well, let's just get out of here and thank all the folks who were on the show today. Nina Baki, sometimes known as Nina Baki, and Rebekah Snyder. Nina's from the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. Rebekah from the Lake County Forest Preserve District. Rick DiMaio, of course, meteorologist. Our thanks to Kathleen. Our thanks to Basil the dog, Legata the cat. You want to throw anybody else in there? Thanks that I got some snow.
Everybody who's watched it. Thanks to everybody who's donated to Double Prairie.
Right. Go, if you haven't subscribed, go subscribe, and you'll get $5 committed. Until next time, go green or
go home.
Yes, it's over. How'd you like it?
I don't know. I slept through the whole thing.
Well, you didn't miss much.